The sun beat down mercilessly on the Sahara Desert as Professor James Miller wiped the sweat from his forehead. His weathered hands brushed away sand from what appeared to be another ordinary rock formation, but something about this one felt different. 20 years of archaeological experience had taught him to trust his instincts. "Tom, bring the ground scanner over here," he called to his assistant. The young man hurried over, carrying the bulky equipment that had become essential to their work. As the scanner's blue light swept across the surface, both men's eyes widened. "Professor, these readings, they're impossible," Tom said, tapping the screen repeatedly. "The density patterns suggest there's a hollow structure below, but it's made of materials our scanner can't identify." Miller nodded slowly, his heart racing. "Get the rest of the team. And call Dr. Roberts from the geology department. I want confirmation before we start digging." Within hours, their small excavation site had transformed into a hive of activity. As layers of sand were carefully removed, they revealed a surface that definitely wasn't natural. It was smooth and dark, with an iridescent quality that seemed to shift colors under different angles of sunlight. "Whatever this is," Dr. Roberts said, examining a small sample, "it's not from Earth. The molecular structure is unlike anything in our geological records." The discovery made Miller's hands shake as he documented everything with his camera. They had uncovered approximately 30 feet of what appeared to be a curved hull, its surface marked with strange patterns that could only be writing. But it was the carbon dating results that truly shocked them. "This object," Miller announced to his team during their evening briefing, "is approximately 65 million years old. It predates human civilization by an almost unimaginable margin." As the excavation continued over the next few days, they uncovered more of the structure. It became clear they were dealing with some sort of spacecraft. The ship had been deliberately buried, not crashed. The sand around it showed signs of careful placement, and the vessel itself was positioned in what appeared to be a ceremonial arrangement. The biggest surprise came when they finally managed to expose what seemed to be an entrance. The door wasn't damaged or forced shut. It had been carefully sealed from the outside. When they finally opened it, using a combination of modern tools and careful archaeology techniques, they found something that changed everything they thought they knew about Earth's history. Inside, perfectly preserved by some unknown technology, were the remains of creatures that were definitely not from Earth. They weren't scattered about like crash victims. They were carefully arranged, surrounded by what appeared to be artifacts and symbols of great importance. This wasn't a crash site. It was a tomb. "Look at the positioning of the bodies," Miller explained to the UN representatives who had quickly arrived at the site. "These beings were placed here with great care. The artifacts around them appear to be ceremonial, possibly representing their achievements or status. This is a burial site, not an accident." The most intriguing discovery was a small device near what appeared to be the ship's control center. It was perfectly preserved, and unlike anything they had ever seen. When their equipment detected energy still flowing through it, Miller made the decision to attempt activation. A holographic display sprang to life, showing images that left everyone speechless. It displayed star systems, trade routes, and what appeared to be a vast galactic civilization. But Earth was marked with a special symbol, one that appeared repeatedly in what they assumed were important historical records. As linguists began the painstaking process of decoding the alien language, one thing became clear: this ship was not alone. The records indicated that Earth had been chosen for a specific purpose, and this vessel was just one of many such burials scattered across the planet. The question that kept Miller awake at night wasn't how these aliens had died, but why they had chosen Earth as their final resting place. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of a discovery that would reshape humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. Dr. Anna Thompson stared at her computer screen, surrounded by photos from different dig sites across the world. In the 3 months since Professor Miller's discovery in the Sahara, similar ships had been found in the Amazon rainforest, the Australian outback, and deep beneath the ice in Antarctica. Each one told the same story. Alien vessels turned into elaborate tombs. "There has to be a pattern," she muttered, pinning another photo to her office wall. The ships were different in design, suggesting they came from different alien species, but they all shared one strange feature. Their hulls were made of materials that seemed to work with Earth's magnetic field in unusual ways. Her phone rang, displaying Miller's number. "Anna, you need to see this." His voice cracked with excitement. "We found another one in Mongolia. But this one's different. Well, you should come see for yourself." 48 hours later, Anna stood at the edge of a massive hole in the Gobi Desert. This ship was bigger than the others, and its hull shimmered with a faint blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Watch this," Miller said, holding up a simple compass. As he walked around the ship's perimeter, the needle spun wildly. "Every ship we found affects magnetic fields, but this one's still active somehow." Inside the ship, the preservation was even better than the Sahara vessel. The alien bodies were arranged in concentric circles around a central platform, each one holding what appeared to be ceremonial objects. But what caught Anna's attention was a series of markings on the wall, similar to the ones they'd found in other ships, but far more extensive. "The linguistics team has made progress," Miller explained, pointing to different symbols. "These aren't just random patterns. They're telling a story. Each ship seems to be from a different period in galactic history, spanning billions of years. Earth wasn't just a random choice. It was specifically selected as a burial ground." Anna walked slowly around the central platform, her mind racing. But why Earth? What makes our planet so special that advanced civilizations would choose to bury their dead here? The answer came from an unexpected source. One of the junior researchers, looking at soil samples from around each burial site, discovered something extraordinary. The combination of Earth's magnetic field and certain minerals in the soil created perfect preservation conditions. Bodies and artifacts buried here degraded far slower than anywhere else in the galaxy. "It's like a natural stasis field," Anna explained to the UN Council a week later. "These civilizations didn't just choose Earth randomly. They chose it because something about our planet's unique properties helps preserve their dead better than any artificial technology they had." But as they studied more ships, an even more incredible pattern emerged. The bodies weren't just preserved, they were arranged to tell stories. Each burial site contained historical records, technological data, and cultural information about the species that chose to rest there. Earth isn't just a graveyard, Anna realized one night, looking at 3D scans of all the sites. It's a library. Each tomb is like a time capsule, preserving not just bodies but entire civilizations' histories. The most surprising discovery came when they started comparing the dates of different burial sites. Some were tens of millions of years apart, but they all referenced each other in their records. Different species, separated by millions of years, had all known about Earth's special properties and had passed this knowledge down through countless generations. As Anna prepared her report for the World Science Council, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were still missing something important. These ships hadn't just been buried randomly across Earth. They formed a pattern, like points on a giant map. But a map of what? The answer would come sooner than she expected, and it would change everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. The basement lab was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the gentle whirring of cooling fans. Dr. Thompson and Professor Miller stood before the holographic device they'd removed from the Mongolian ship. After weeks of careful study, they believed they had finally figured out how to access its main database. "Ready?" Miller asked, his finger hovering over the activation sequence they'd decoded. Anna nodded, and he pressed the symbols in order. The device hummed louder, and suddenly the room filled with light. The three-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared, floating in the air. Thousands of stars glowed softly, but Earth was marked with a brilliant blue light that pulsed like a beacon. Then something unexpected happened. The hologram shifted, and a figure appeared, a creature unlike any they'd found in the burial ships. It began to speak, and to their amazement, the words were automatically translated into various Earth languages. "Greetings, guardians of the cradle," the figure said. "If you are watching this, you have discovered your true heritage as the caretakers of the sacred ground." Anna and Miller exchanged shocked looks as the message continued. Earth, known throughout the galaxy as the cradle of peace, has served as the final resting place for countless civilizations. Its unique properties make it the only planet in the known galaxy where organic matter can be preserved almost indefinitely. The hologram showed images of different alien species, all participating in what appeared to be burial ceremonies on Earth. Some of the ceremonies dated back hundreds of millions of years. Wars that raged across thousands of star systems would often end here, the figure explained. Ancient enemies would lay their dead to rest side by side on this neutral ground, finding peace in death that they couldn't achieve in life. More images appeared, showing massive space battles, followed by solemn burial processions on Earth. The dates spanned millions of years, showing how Earth had served this purpose through multiple ages of galactic history. But Earth's significance goes beyond mere preservation, the message continued. Each burial site contains a complete historical record of the civilization it represents. Together, they form the most complete archive of galactic history ever assembled. The hologram showed how the burial sites across Earth were connected, forming a vast network of historical records. Each tomb contained not just bodies, but also cultural artifacts, technological data, and historical documents. Your planet's magnetic field doesn't just preserve bodies, the figure explained. It maintains the integrity of data crystals and memory cores in ways that no artificial storage system can match. Earth is not just a cemetery. It is the greatest library in the galaxy. Miller quickly took notes as the hologram displayed technical information about how the preservation system worked. The combination of Earth's magnetic field, specific mineral compositions in the soil, and carefully engineered burial chambers created perfect storage conditions that could last for millions of years. But why are we only finding this out now? Anna wondered aloud. The hologram seemed to answer her question. The knowledge of Earth's location was carefully guarded. Only civilizations that reached a certain level of technological and cultural development were entrusted with this information. This was done to protect the sanctity of this special place. The message went on to explain how Earth's location had been passed down through generations of different species, always protected, always revered. The burial sites weren't randomly placed. They formed a complex pattern that, when properly activated, could reveal even more ancient secrets. As the hologram faded, one final message appeared. You who have discovered this are now part of an ancient tradition. The responsibility of protecting these records now falls to you. Use this knowledge wisely, for you are now the custodians of galactic history. Anna and Miller sat in stunned silence for several minutes after the message ended. They had expected to find answers, but instead, they'd discovered an even greater mystery and an enormous responsibility. We need to call an emergency meeting, Miller finally said. The world needs to know what we've just learned. Little did they know, they weren't the only ones interested in Earth's ancient secrets. High above the planet, something was approaching. Something that would put humanity's new role as guardians to the test. The world changed overnight after Dr. Thompson and Professor Miller released their findings. News channels worldwide broadcast images of the alien holograms, and governments scrambled to respond to the revelation that Earth was a galactic sacred ground. But the biggest shock came during the second playback of the ancient message. As they reviewed the data, they discovered hidden segments that only activated after the initial viewing. These new recordings revealed something that changed everything they thought they knew about human history. Look at this DNA sequence, Anna said, pointing to the strange patterns floating in the hologram. It's human DNA, but with annotations from millions of years ago. They didn't just choose Earth as a burial ground. They chose us as its guardians. The hologram showed how ancient species had carefully engineered Earth's conditions over billions of years. They had nudged evolution in subtle ways, ensuring that eventually a species would emerge with exactly the right characteristics to protect this cosmic graveyard. Your aggressive nature is not a flaw, the ancient message explained. It was carefully crafted to ensure you would fight fiercely to protect that which you consider sacred. Your adaptability, your creativity, your stubborn determination. These are not accidents. They are tools, given to you for a specific purpose. Miller watched in amazement as the hologram showed how humanity's development had been subtly guided. They didn't directly create us, he explained to the UN Security Council. They just ensured that evolution would eventually produce a species with the right combination of traits. We're not their creation. We're their chosen successors. The message revealed how humans have been given unique abilities that made them perfect guardians. Their bodies were naturally attuned to Earth's magnetic field in ways that made them immune to the deterioration that affected other species who stayed too long on the planet. Their brains could process and adapt to new information faster than any other known species. But most importantly, humans had something that made them unique among all known civilizations. They could interact with the ancient defense systems buried beneath Earth's surface in ways that even the original builders couldn't. Your physical form was engineered to resonate with the planetary defense grid, the hologram explained. You are the key that can unlock its power, but only in defense of this sacred ground. The weapons will not activate for conquest or aggression, only for protection. As if to demonstrate, the hologram showed the location of hidden chambers beneath each burial site. These chambers contained technology beyond anything humans had imagined, but they would only work when used with the right intentions. That's why all our attempts to reverse engineer alien technology have failed, Anna realized. We were trying to use it for the wrong purposes. It's not meant for expansion or warfare. It's meant for defense. The revelation sent shockwaves through the military and scientific communities. Humanity had spent centuries looking to the stars, dreaming of conquest or fearing invasion. Instead, they discovered they were meant to be something far more important, guardians of the galaxy's most sacred site. As Miller and Anna worked to understand more about humanity's new role, strange readings began appearing on deep space monitoring stations. Something was headed toward Earth, multiple somethings from different directions. We're picking up two distinct groups of ships, the NASA director reported. One appears to be badly damaged, possibly fleeing from the others. They're following known burial routes to Earth. Anna looked at the star map, watching the approaching vessels. It's happening already, she said quietly. Someone's coming to bury their dead, and someone else is trying to stop them. This is what we were prepared for. This is why we're here. As military leaders around the world prepared for possible conflict, Miller made a discovery in the ancient texts that chilled him to the bone. The defensive systems, he told Anna, they can only be activated by someone willing to die protecting the sacred ground. The ultimate test of a guardian is their willingness to sacrifice everything to protect these tombs. Humanity's first test as the galaxy's chosen guardians was about to begin, and the price of failure would be unimaginable. Commander Robert Hayes stood in the United Earth Defense Command Center, watching as dozens of red and blue dots moved across the giant screen. The damaged fleet, marked in blue, was less than 24 hours from Earth's orbit. The pursuing forces, marked in red, were close behind. What's their status? He asked the monitoring officer. The leading fleet has taken heavy damage. We're counting 12 ships, mostly civilian vessels converted for military use. The pursuing fleet has 28 warships, all heavily armed. Dr. Thompson and Professor Miller rushed into the command center, carrying new data from the ancient archives. Commander, Anna called out, we've decoded more of the burial protocols. The approaching fleet has followed all the proper procedures. They have a right to be here. Miller spread out several printouts showing translations of ancient laws. According to these, any civilization can seek burial rights on Earth as long as they follow the sacred protocols. The pursuing fleet is breaking one of the oldest laws in the galaxy. Hayes studied the tactical display. In the 3 months since they'd discovered their role as guardians, they'd been preparing for something like this. But now that it was happening, the weight of responsibility felt overwhelming. "Open a channel to both fleets," Hayes ordered. The communications officer worked quickly, and soon the command center filled with strange clicking and humming sounds as alien languages were translated into English. "This is Commander Hayes of Earth Defense Command," he announced. "To the pursuing fleet, you are violating sacred law. Break off your pursuit and leave this system immediately." The response came quickly, harsh, and dismissive. "This is War Leader Kex of the Victory Fleet. These criminals destroyed 3 of our worlds. They will not be allowed the honor of sacred burial. Stand aside, young species. This is not your concern." Hayes looked at Anna and Miller. "Options. The defensive systems are ready," Anna said. "But remember what we learned. They'll only work if we're protecting the sanctity of this place. We can't use them for aggressive action." The commander nodded slowly. "And the pursuing fleet? What happens if we can't stop them?" Miller's face was grim. "If they desecrate even one burial site, it could start a chain reaction. Hundreds of species would see it as an attack on their ancestors. The galaxy could erupt into war, with Earth at the center." Hayes made his decision. "Launch our ships. Form a defensive line between the fleets, and get me the president. We need to activate the planetary defense grid." Within hours, Earth's combined fleet, a mixture of hastily upgraded military satellites and converted civilian spacecraft, took up position around the planet. They were primitive compared to the alien vessels, but they carried humanity's determination to protect their sacred trust. The damaged fleet slowed as it approached, following proper burial protocols despite their desperate situation. The pursuing fleet, however, showed no signs of stopping. "Final warning," Hayes broadcast. "This is sacred ground. We will defend it." The alien commander's laugh came through the translator. "With what? Your primitive weapons. You've barely reached your own moon. Stand aside." And his transmission cut off as the first of Earth's ancient defenses activated. Golden lines of energy began spreading across the planet's surface, connecting all the burial sites in a web of power that had lain dormant for millions of years. "By the ancient laws," Hayes declared, "and by the right of guardianship given to humanity, we accept our duty to protect this sacred ground. This is your final chance to withdraw." The pursuing fleet's response was to launch their first wave of weapons. As the energy bolts approached Earth, the ancient defense grid flared to life. Every burial site on the planet began to pulse with power, and humanity prepared to face its first test as guardians of the galaxy's most sacred cemetery. The battle that would decide Earth's future, and possibly the peace of the entire galaxy, was about to begin. The first shots from the alien fleet lit up space like artificial stars. Commander Hayes watched as the energy weapons approached Earth, their power enough to crack continents. But as the blasts neared the planet's atmosphere, something extraordinary happened. The golden web of energy connecting Earth's burial sites pulsed brightly. Beams of light shot up from each tomb, forming a protective shield that caught the alien weapons and absorbed them completely. The ancient defense system had worked exactly as designed. "All ships, hold position," Hayes ordered. "Let them exhaust their primary weapons." He turned to Dr. Thompson, who was monitoring the defense grid's power levels. "How are we holding up?" "The system is actually getting stronger," Anna replied, amazement in her voice. "Each attack it absorbs adds to its power." The ancient builders thought of everything. The pursuing fleet, frustrated by their weapons' ineffectiveness, launched their second wave of attacks. This time they targeted Earth's defensive fleet directly, thinking to bypass the ancient shields. But humanity had one more surprise waiting. As the alien weapons approached, the Earth ships' seemingly primitive hulls began to glow with the same golden energy. The ancient defense grid wasn't just protecting the planet, it was extending its power to anything used in Earth's defense. "Now," Hayes commanded, "all ships, return fire. Earth's vessels fired their simple projectile weapons, rails guns, missiles, and basic energy weapons. But as each shot passed through the golden field, it was transformed. Regular missiles became balls of pure energy. Simple bullets turned into streaks of light that could pierce advanced alien shields. The pursuing fleet's commander was stunned. Impossible. Their weapons are primitive. How are they penetrating our defenses? Professor Miller's voice came over the general communication channel, broadcasting to both fleets. This is why Earth was chosen. This is why humanity was engineered to be its guardians. Your advanced technology means nothing here. The ancient laws will be enforced. The damaged fleet seeking burial rights had reached Earth's orbit now, following the proper protocols even in the midst of battle. As they began their burial preparations, the defense grid grew even stronger, recognizing and supporting their sacred purpose. The pursuing fleet launched a desperate final attack, trying to overwhelm Earth's defenses through sheer numbers. Thousands of weapons filled space, creating a web of destructive energy that threatened to overwhelm everything in its path. Commander Hayes knew what he had to do. The ancient texts had spoken of a final defense, one that required absolute commitment to the protection of the sacred ground. He placed his hand on the central control panel, and as he did, the golden energy flowed into him. "Commander Hayes," Anna shouted. "The energy readings, it's using you as a conduit." Hayes felt the power of millions of years of sacred history flow through him. In that moment, he understood everything. Why Earth had been chosen, why humanity had been guided to this point, and what they had to do. "All ships, clear the area," he ordered, his voice resonating with strange harmonics. Final defense protocol activating. The golden web surrounding Earth suddenly contracted, then exploded outward in a wave of pure energy. As it passed through the pursuing fleet, their weapons simply stopped working. Their engines shut down. Every system more advanced than Earth's current technology level simply switched off. War leader Kex's voice came through, now humble and afraid. What have you done to our ships?" "We have enforced the peace of the sacred ground," Hayes replied, feeling the ancient power slowly fade from him. "Your ships will regain power once you leave this system. You are hereby banned from approaching Earth again by the authority of the ancient laws and the right of guardianship." As the pursuing fleet drifted helplessly in space, the damaged ships began their burial ceremonies, properly laying their dead to rest in Earth's sacred soil. The first test of humanity's guardianship was over. But as Hayes looked at the readings from deep space, he knew this was just the beginning. Word of what had happened here would spread across the galaxy. Earth's new role as defender of the dead had been proven, and more tests would surely follow. 3 months after the battle that became known as the First Defense, Earth had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The burial ceremonies for the refugee fleet had been completed with full honors, and their story of resistance against tyranny and the price they paid was now preserved forever in Earth's sacred soil. Commander Hayes stood at the newly constructed Galactic Memorial Center in Geneva, watching as diplomatic ships from a dozen different alien civilizations descended through the atmosphere. Each one followed strict protocols, their vessels powered down to match Earth's technology level, one of the new rules established after the battle. "Quite a change from hunting for buried ships in the desert," Professor Miller said, joining him at the observation window. "Now they're coming to us openly." Dr. Thompson walked up with the latest data from the burial sites. "The energy web is stronger than ever," she reported. "Each new burial adds to its power. The ancient builders really did think of everything." The first official Galactic Council meeting on Earth was about to begin. Representatives from the oldest spacefaring races had gathered to formally recognize humanity's role as guardians of the sacred ground. Inside the Great Hall, built with a mixture of human architecture and alien designs, Hayes took his place at the central podium. The alien delegates filled the chamber with a rainbow of colors and forms, each one representing civilizations that spanned thousands of stars. "We gather here," Hayes began, his words being translated into hundreds of languages, "not to celebrate a victory, but to honor a trust. Earth has always been more than just our home. It is the final resting place of countless souls, the keeper of histories that span millions of years." The alien representatives nodded in agreement. The oldest among them, a being from a civilization that had been traveling the stars when humans were still learning to make fire, rose to speak. "Humanity has proven worthy of the trust placed in them by our ancestors," the ancient being declared. "In defending our honored dead against desecration, they have shown they understand the true purpose of their evolution. We formally recognize Earth as the sacred cemetery world, and humanity as its appointed guardians." One by one, the representatives came forward to sign the Galactic Concordat. The treaty established Earth's special status and humanity's role in maintaining it. But it did more than that. It opened the door for humanity to join the galactic community in a unique way. "We're establishing the first human embassy on the galactic capital," Anna told Hayes after the ceremony. "But it's not just a diplomatic mission. We're going to help other species lay their dead to rest, guide them through the ancient protocols." Miller smiled, holding up a data crystal containing the combined histories of all the civilizations buried on Earth. "And we're sharing these records with the galaxy. Not the technologies or weapons, but the stories, the cultures, the lessons learned. That's what the ancient builders wanted, for death to teach us how to live better lives." As the sun set on the first day of Earth's new role in the galaxy, Hayes looked up at the stars with new understanding. Humans had always dreamed of reaching out to them, of conquering or being conquered. Instead, they had found a greater purpose, being the protectors of peace that extended beyond death itself. "We received a new request for burial rites," an aide reported, handing Hayes a datapad. "A species from the far rim. Their world is dying, and they want their final story to be preserved here." Hayes nodded solemnly. "Prepare the welcome protocols. Remember what we've learned. Every burial is a story, every tomb a lesson, and every species that rests in Earth's soil becomes part of our sacred trust to protect." As night fell over the memorial center, the golden web of energy that connected all of Earth's burial sites pulsed gently, visible now to the human eye. It was a reminder of their duty, their purpose, and their unique place in the galaxy. Earth was no longer just another world among millions. It was the final chapter in countless stories, the keeper of histories, and the sacred ground where even the bitterest enemies could find peace in their final rest. Humanity had found its true purpose among the stars, not as conquerors or victims, but as the guardians of memory, the protectors of peace, and the caretakers of the greatest library of lives the galaxy had ever known.